evening and welcome to our October 24th Board of Selectmen meeting. Before we rise for Pledge of Allegiance, I just want to make sure we have a moment of silence for Leonard Cardinal, who unfortunately passed away on October 18th. So rise for Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Unfortunately, like I just mentioned, Mr. Cardinal passed away October 18th. He was very active in the town on the Conservation Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals. He was a major player in the Charlton Recreational Baseball League. And our condolences go out to his family. So, an unfortunate loss for our community. All right, with that, we'll go over the agenda. We'll start with the October 10th meeting minutes, then our October 16th special meeting minutes. We'll then move on to community relations, announcements, and open forums, appointments and resignations, then on to scheduled appointments. Under new business, we have 9 items. 1 is a site plan application for Pillar LLC. Number 2 is a site plan application for the Healthwise Foundation Dispensary. Number 3 is the Worcester County Selectmen's Association. Number 4 is a letter from Dudley Charlton Regional School District. Number 5 is a Highway Department request to declare 2 vehicles as surplus. Number 6, a special 1-day alcoholic beverage license applications form. Number 7, a request for a special liquor license. Number 8, another special liquor license request. The first one for St. Joseph's Church. The second one is Buchanan Wedding. And item number 9 under new business is a request for a special liquor license for Base Beverage Incorporated. Under old business, we have 1 item. That's the fire chief retirement and the hiring process. We'll then move on to community reports, then board of selectmen policy reviews, the student select persons report, which I'm happy to welcome Anya Grondalski. Welcome, Ms. Grondalski. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
And then we'll move on to the town administrator's report, and then any other business unknown at the time of posting. Our next meeting will be November 7th, and we'll go into executive session and adjourn from executive session solely for the purpose of adjourning the open meeting. That, what is the board's wishes with our minutes of our regular meeting for October 10th?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from October 10th as written.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Right, chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. And what's the board's wishes with our October 16th meeting minutes?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for the special meeting on October 16th as written.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. We'll now move on to community relations announcements and open forums. Trick-or-treating will be held on a Tuesday, October 31st, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. The town hall will be closed at 5 o'clock that evening. The Board of Building Regulations and Standards announced the 9th edition of the Massachusetts Building Code will be published Friday, October 20th, with a full implementation date of January 2nd, 2018. Complete applications received between October 20th and December 29th this year have the option of being pulled under the 8th or 9th edition. Permanent applications received after December 29th, 2017 will have to fully comply with the 9th edition. Representative Peter Durant will be holding office hours on November 13th at 10:30 a.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room at this town hall. Barn inspections are conducted October through December each year. Barn inspections are designed to get a good census of the domestic animal population of the town, be sure that all of the animals appear in good health and free from disease, and observe animals, housing, and ensure ample food and water are supplied. If you have any questions about these inspections, please contact the Animal Control / Animal Inspection Officer at 508-248-2250. For more information, please visit the Massachusetts Bureau of Animal Health at mass.gov/EEA/agencies, animal health, etc. There's 1 full-time member opening on the planning board. Interested candidates should send letters of interest to the Board of Selectmen at 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. The town clerk's office will be closed on Thursday, October 26th for training. National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day will be held on Saturday, October 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Charlton Police Department and the at the Charlton Police Department. The Charlton Police Department and the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, will give the public another opportunity to prevent pill abuse and theft by ridding their homes of potentially dangerous, expired, unused, and unwanted prescription drugs. Bring your medications for disposal to the Charlton Police Department at 85 Masonic Home Road, Charlton, Mass. The service is free and anonymous. No questions will be asked. Charlton Christmas Concert and Tree Laying Ceremony will be held on Sunday, December 3rd at 4:30 p.m. at the Charlton Town Common and Town Library. Once again this year, all the singing and performances will take place at the Charlton Public Library in Dexter Hall on the second floor. There will be individual singers and performances by students from Shepherd Hill Regional High School, Charlton Middle School, and the Federated Church, and the Pastor Prime Chorale. The Girl Scouts will be providing hot chocolate, and Santa Claus will be arriving via a Charlton fire truck as part of the Festival of Lights Parade at approximately 6 p.m., at which we will light up the Christmas tree and the decorations on the town common. Are there any other announcements? Is there anyone here for open forum? Seeing none, we'll move on to our first item under new business as a site plan application for Pillar LLC. And I will read all Ms. Craver's memos. Attached is a copy of a site plan application submitted to the planning board by Burton Engineering on behalf of Pillar LLC for approval of a 4.9 megawatt commercial ground-mounted solar array and associated utility connection on approximately 17 acres of property located westerly off of Carpenter Hill Road. Said property is zoned agricultural. You're being asked to review the application, and if you have any comments or concerns, we must notify them no later than Wednesday, October 25th. Does the board have any concerns?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer.
I would ask that we again send the planning board a request that any solar array installed includes such barriers to obstruct the view from passing roads, neighboring houses and buildings and whatnot. Is it, again, Charlton's turning into just a mirror of an eyesore.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for that comment. Are there any other comments? Just make sure, just a reminder to our board, make sure the microphones are up to you and you're speaking right into it. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our next item. It is another site plan application. This is for the Healthwise Foundation Dispensary. And I will read the memo. Attached is a copy of a site plan application submitted to the planning board by attorney James McMahon on behalf of the Healthwise Foundation Incorporated, requesting approval to operate a registered medical marijuana dispensary in an existing building with an accompanying existing parking lot on proposed location southerly off Route 20 at the southeast corner of the intersection of Route 20 and Route 31. Said property is zoned community business. You are being asked to review the application, and if you have any concerns, comments, we must notify them no later than Wednesday, October 25th. Mr. McGrath reviewed the application in the office and asked if there's any preliminary or conceptual designs of the building. We will notify the planning board of this question once the board has reviewed this request. Mr. Swenson.
John, we did get one. I've seen a preliminary drawing. There is one around somewhere.
But it wasn't attached with the prints. That's, I thought
Oh,
I'd seen it.
okay, yeah, there is-
I thought I had
Okay,
seen it, and,
yeah.
and I wanted to, make sure.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Noble.
prior to coming to this meeting, I was at the first meeting of the Marijuana Advisory Council here in town.
Thank you for attending that, and how was that?
It was well attended. There was a representative there from the fire department, the police department. Mr. Jim McMahon was there from Healthwise, as well as Mr. Philbrook, from the health director, myself, and the citizen representative, Jamie Leahy. There will be a public meeting on November 1st to discuss the site plan and the permitting.
Nice.
So I'd encourage the public, if they have any questions and want to know more about this project, to attend that meeting on November 1st.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'll make sure we advertise that and make sure we know it in our minutes. Is there any other comments that we want to send to the planning board? Seeing none, thank you for that. We'll move on. Since I see some of the people here for item number 9, without objection from the board, I'd like to skip to number 9 for the request for special license for Base Beverage Incorporated. Are there any objections?
No.
All right. We'll now move on to request for a special liquor license for Base Beverage Incorporated. Oh, and this is a long memo. So, at the board's October 10th, 2007 meeting, you held a discussion with Russell Jennings, who was here on behalf of Base Beverage Incorporated, seeking a special liquor license for property located at 219 Brookfield Road with an alternative site for 39 Hammond Hill Road to hold a Forsaken Forest Halloween event. In reference to the 219 Brookfield Road, there is an active cease and desist on the property. Mr. Jennings has stated that in his site plan, his site plan has lapsed. As the board wanted to work with Mr. Jennings, the discussion of the next steps took place. If it is the intention of 508 to withdraw their site plan, our attorney had recommended that he go back to the planning board with an official withdrawal. In the conversation, the board asked the office to help expedite the application once the withdrawal was completed and approved by the planning board. Mr. Jennings stated that he would definitely follow that advice and that they, the planning board, would receive a copy of the letter that was submitted to the town clerk tomorrow, which would be 10/11/17. The process would have to be to have the planning board approve it first, then provide notice to the attorney from the planning board so it can go in front of the judge to have the cease and desist removed. On October 11th at 8 a.m., the office spoke with the planning board administrative assistant and told her what happened at the board's meeting and said that Mr. Jennings would be in today with a letter requesting withdrawal. We were informed by the planning board that Mr. Jennings or any associate from his business did not come in during the day with the letter as stated, but appeared at the planning board meeting that evening asking to discuss it. As they were not placed on the planning board's agenda, there was no discussion on the subject. They asked to be placed on the planning board's October 18th agenda. See the attached letter that Mr. Jennings provided to the planning board on the 18th. We will provide you with the outcome of the planning board's meeting once we are informed. For the request of a special liquor license by Base Beverage Incorporated for a Forsaken Forest Halloween event to be used at 39 Hammond Hill Road in Charlton, the request was submitted and approved by the fire and police departments on October 4th. The building commissioner's office received the application on October 4th as well, but did not allow him enough time to review the location for this event for a recommendation for the board's October 10th meeting. On October 17th, our office received the building commissioner's recommendation, which is as follows. For the reasons stated below, the venue at this time does not meet the base zoning requirements for the proposed activity. It would be improper for the building commissioner / zoning enforcement officer to sign off on the special liquor license. Further, I recommend that the Board of Selectmen withhold issuance of the pending license. I have reviewed the application, this is Ms. Craver, by the office October 4th, and supplemental material for the above caption request. The property is an agricultural zone consisting of accessors parcels 37-A-20 and 23-B-14.3. Approximately 34 acres, improved by a single-family home, accessory structure, a gravel parking area, and what looks like a motocross track. The applicant had previously met with Ms. Craver for a similar event on another parcel in town. The applicant described to Ms. Craver the Forsaken Forest as a walking tour through the woods with character actors and themed decorations. Based on the above description, the request to serve alcohol, admission charges, and the number of persons at 500 people per day, it is Ms. Craver's determination, the determination of the zoning enforcement officer that this proposed use is another recreational facility for gainful profit. Zoning bylaw, section 200-3.1b, use regulation schedule, use category recreational uses for, line C, other recreational facilities conducted for gainful profit, including indoor and outdoor theaters, physical fitness centers, health clubs, and indoor/outdoor tennis and racquetball facilities, is marked with a P. Bylaw section 200-3.1A, general shows Y as a permitted use, and P as a use whose is subject to a regulatory means by site plan review and approval, and N being an excluded or prohibited use, and SP as a permitted under special permit granted by the planning board. As of this writing, there has not been a plan submitted, a hearing held, or decision of the planning board that fulfills this requirement. Without compliance of the above-mentioned sections, a certificate of compliance cannot be issued in accordance with the bylaws, which states in part, no land shall be occupied or used, and no building, sign, or other structure erected or structurally altered shall be occupied or used after the effective date of this bylaw, unless a certificate of compliance has been issued by the zoning enforcement officer stating that the building, sign, or structure and the proposed use of land, building, sign, or other structure complies with the provisions of this bylaw. In closing, the Board of Selectmen office has tried to be very efficient and helpful to Mr. Jennings and his requests. We have followed the directions of the board and have gone above and beyond to provide the best services as possible. And they wait for further guidance from the board at this time. Welcome, Mr. Jennings.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Is there any opening comments from the board or Mr. Jennings?
No, I'd wait for the board to comment.
No comments? If you can please, I would ask anyone making comments, make sure they're on topic, concise, and respectful, and make sure you speak right into the microphone. Mr. Jennings?
Well, just, I'd like to hear what the board has to say, first of all, about this letter from Mr. Meskis.
Thank you. Is there any comments from the board?
Just, we're gonna go with his judgment, Russ, on what he sent.
Okay.
So it seems like it's, this property, it's this is a for-profit event, and it's not, it needs a site plan review.
We're talking about the liquor permit for 39 Hammond Hill Road, correct?
Correct.
So it's my understanding that that event has been canceled or moved, correct?
Yes.
So this is basically a moot point on this, on 39 Hammond Hill Road.
At this point, it is.
Okay,
And,
so just in saying that, really, the board doesn't even have to go any further with this, okay? Anything that's contained in the zoning enforcement officer, you know, building inspector's letter, you need to take up with him if you are going to go anywhere else, okay? With requesting a special liquor license,
okay,
okay?
all right. Well, I appreciate your time, and I'll actually look forward to coming back in this evening under new business to address another topic.
Okay.
So,
Excellent.
Just to, which item under new business, out of curiosity?
I'm sorry, what's that?
You said come back for another item under new business?
Yes, not pertaining to this.
Okay,
So,
thank you very much.
thank you.
All right, so we took care of number 9. We'll go back to item number 3 under new business. That's the Worcester County Selectmen's Association, a voting member. Attached is a membership renewal from the Worcester County Selectmen's Association. The fee for renewal is $50. Chairman Safarovich has been the voting member, and the Vice Chairman McGrath was the alternate. Does the board wish to join the Worcester County Selectmen's Association again this year? And if so, who would the voting and alternate voting members be?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Singer.
So, unless anyone has any other special requests, I'd be happy to make a motion to reappoint both of you to the same positions and go back. Or you can flip-flop if you want.
Doesn't matter.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Does that also include renewing our membership with the Worcester County Selectmen's Association?
You would need to do that, so it's kind of inherent.
Yes.
I just want to make sure. The motion is second to renew our membership with the Worcester County Selectmen's Association and appoint myself and Mr. McGrath as the voting member and alternate as recommended. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 4 in a new business, letter from the Dudley Charlton Regional School District, support of Senate Bill 217. I will read the memo. Attached are the copies of the letters we received from Greg Desto, Superintendent of the Dudley Charlton School District, to Senator Ann Goby and Senator Ryan Fatman, asking for their support of Senate Bill 217. See attached. This bill is intended to establish a commission to review the way regional school districts are funded and to recommend a framework that would better account for differences between the towns and make up regional districts. They are asking for support due to Dudley and Charlton's impact to meeting the costs of education while also meeting the needs of local town government. The funding formula for these two towns requires vastly different contributions from the towns without acknowledging their place in a regional district. This past year, state formula requires Dudley to increase their minimum contribution to the district by $442,000 when they only have an approximate $400,000 in annual revenue. Charlton, because they are closer to the target share, are required to increase their contributions to the district by $268,000. Mr. Desto states that they are appreciative of these increases, but two things accompany them. One, a corresponding decrease in support from the state, or two, a rock and a hard place scenario wherein they either A, raise their assessment to account for Charlton's ability to pay, thereby dramatically damaging Dudley's budget, or B, they lower the expectations of what Charlton can pay in order to assist Dudley's budget and thereby requiring the schools to cut positions. They're asking for state legislators for their support, which would allow them to move forward to collectively bring to light the funding challenges that are unique to regional districts, especially in their part of the state. Does the board wish to take any action on this?
Through the chair. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Noble?
I would move that we support Mr. Desto and that we put that support in writing.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to send a letter of support as requested. Any discussion on the motion?
Oh,
Mrs.
yeah.
Swenson,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
please.
We're currently under what the state now refers to as the wealth formula, which takes into account per capita income, property values, and a bunch of other things to determine what percentage the town pays. This has been haunting us for as long as I've been on this board. It's been a nightmare for as long as I've been around. And it basically came out of a lot of representatives who live on, who have homes out on the Cape, where the actual per medium income is low because they're not permanent residences, property values are high, and it has really done a huge disservice to both Dudley and to Charlton. I mean, we are currently paying hundreds of dollars more for pupils that sit in the exact same classrooms with the exact same teachers that the residents of Dudley are.
You're also not getting the reimbursement from the state for regional transportation.
Well, the regional transportation is a whole different thing, but this wealth formula it was ill-conceived. I think it's been a disaster for our district. It's been a disaster for Dudley. And at an MMA meeting once years ago, Ms. Craver introduced me to the man who actually drafted it, and even he couldn't explain it to me in a way that I could understand it. That may be me. I would like to think it's not, but it certainly could be. So anything that we can do to support getting rid of, altering, changing, making more equitable the wealth formula that's currently being used, I think we have to do it.
Right, I think if my memory serves correct, that there was a study on the formula. I think it might be ongoing, but I think it's probably another attempt at figuring out what's going on with it.
Let's just say what he said. Things tend to get lost when they hit the state,
True,
so a little push is always good.
absolutely. That presentation we had after the financial investigation, it opened our eyes a little bit to see
Yes.
how complex it really is under the hood of the formula. So I think it's a great idea to ask our representatives to push for this.
Just
Ms.
one
Noble?
thing, I would say that, yes, we send a letter of support to each of the sponsors of the bill.
Yep.
That we all sign off on it, and that we ask to be kept informed as to the progress of said bill as it travels through the legislature, so that we can continue our advocacy.
I'll second that.
We already had a motion, a second
Oh,
Thank you,
okay.
Arlene.
I was
on the
probably out of
floor.
the room.
And I think that's just, that's a good discussion. That's just included in that letter as we send the support to our
Goodby
senators.
and Patton.
Any further discussion?
Maybe we can send a letter to our representatives in the House as well, to ask them to give Senator Goby and Patton any support that they can give.
Fair enough. If we want to include, I think it might behoove us to include the representatives as well, both
Yes.
Frost and Durant on the letter.
One last comment, if I could.
Yes, sir?
This appears to be a bipartisan initiative,
Yeah.
which is very encouraging.
Yes,
And I
truly.
truly appreciate seeing some work across the aisle on this.
Absolutely. It's a big issue. It's
There's-
hurting
there's
Charlton,
no
it's hurting
question
Dudley,
it
so.
is.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you very much. Item number 5, Highway Department request to declare 2 vehicles as surplus. Attached is a request from the Highway Superintendent Foskett asking the board to declare the following 2 vehicles as surplus due to them being in very poor condition. A 1996 Ford F-350 truck and a 2005 Ford F-350 truck. Both are over 175,000 miles. Ms.
So
Graber would recommend the board to approve.
So moved.
Right,
Second.
Motion in 2 seconds to approve the request to declare the 2 vehicles as surplus vehicles. Any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 6, special one-day alcohol beverage license application form. At the board's October 10th meeting, it was asked to put the special one-day alcoholic beverage license application on tonight's agenda. At your meeting, an applicant was questioning the application and felt the board needed to review it and make changes due to not having a spot for a signature if the application request is denied by a department, which was felt was holding up the process and not enabling an application to come before the board or allow the board to make a proper decision on the request. Selectman Singer made recommendations as well, stating if the event sponsor and venue are the same or if it's associated business, owners, shareholders, locations, etc., no more than the set number of days for the requests for special licenses can be approved in a calendar year. If the event sponsor is different from the venue, then each sponsor would have to make the request. We are in the process of reviewing the application and will bring it back to you for consideration at your next meeting. We've also provided you with copies of other towns' applications as requested. There is a file of hard copies on your desk in the office and in the Dropbox as well. They would like to ask that we review these applications, and if we wish if you wish any information from those to be incorporated, please let the office know. This has also been forwarded to the police, fire, and building departments for review. Some of the recommendations to the application are the license has been called a special one-day alcoholic beverage license, which we recommended saying special license one-day alcoholic beverage license, which is how the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission's ABCC has named it on their website. The stipulations governing special licenses recommended by the ABCC have been included in the application as well. Other items include other items added, line for each department to fill in when the application was received by them, added recommendation for approval or denial to be checked by each department, added line for a date completed by each department. This will track the time sensitivity of each request, and added space for the selectman's office to note date received in the office when completed, and also the date of the next available selectmen's meeting, which it would be placed. Are there any comments or actions from the board?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer?
I had asked Robin to forward an email with some thoughts for you guys to consider.
Yep.
I opened it just so I could remember what I wrote.
If you don't mind sharing with us now, that'd be appreciated.
Some of the thoughts that I had, that any one, like, was it venue or sponsor an event, be limited to no more than 12 of the specials licenses per year. If they're gonna be doing regular events, I felt that they should actually just get a liquor license for the property.
So, just a clarifying question, is that 12 licenses, 12 days? Does that include the customary day before and after pickup?
Well, customary day before and after, to me, you're not serving, that would not count against.
Okay,
And I think also, if that same host or venue, whatever, if the venue was the host, they would be under that 12 per year days.
mhm,
But if the venue has someone else come into their property, they should be applying for the license, not the venue, it's just a separate host. And then those would not count against their 12 because it's a separate person applying for the license. For example, if you had property, like where the Rave is, and I think I mentioned something similar, and they wanna have their own events.
Yule Commons?
Yes, if they wanna have their own events, then, they're the host, the sponsor, and the venue. They have to apply for their own licenses 12 days a year. But if like a Warrior Dash came in, they would apply for the license for the liquor specialist on that property, would not count against Yield Commons. And then if a Spartan race came in, they would also apply for their own, and neither would count against the venue, so they would still have their 12. Because I don't wanna see in the future, as we go through this, people using 1 days or specials to simply circumvent having to actually get a liquor license. If it's an ongoing, nonstop liquor sales at your establishment, you should get a liquor license, and we can avoid all this going forward, get the liquor license.
Before we go into another point, I think Ms. McGrath has a question.
Through the chair, David, I think the better example would be the Barton Camp, where they host people with weddings.
Right, the wedding comes
We would not want
in.
to penalize
Camp Joslin?
Barton, yeah, Camp Joslin, rather, I'm sorry. We wouldn't want to penalize them if they came forward for a liquor license because somebody has been applying for their, to use their venue for a wedding,
Right,
all
like, or
along.
like St. Joe's, if they wanna have their own 12 days a year. But when the wedding comes in, it's the wedding party at St. Joe's, it's the wedding party that applies for the liquor license, not St. Joe's. And then it would not count against St. Joe's, cause it's just someone else who's having the event. Another, and this is just for you guys to consider, thoughts, another one was, changing the fee structure. Not-for-profit could either continue to be free, or it could be a $10 fee just to cover admin costs. But I felt that a for-profit, I did not see why we couldn't move that to $200 or $250. You're making thousands of dollars in profit off an event. $50 is nothing, I think, to a business making thousands, and does not do anything to maybe say, hey, you know what? We should consider just getting an actual liquor license if we're gonna do this regularly, when you can just come in and throw $50 out there, get a special, and make thousands of dollars off it.
Through the chair.
So just a
Ms.
thought.
Noble?
I see exactly what you mean by $50 really isn't much, but when you're paying $200 or $250, it really gives you something to think about.
Yes.
As to whether or not do you really want to have a liquor license, this is not something to take lightly. So, maybe we could think about having a tiered
Sure.
pricing,
Based on like maybe number of expected guests or type of events?
or number of liquor licenses. First liquor license is 50, next one's 100, next one's.
That's a good idea.
Also, I think
Just
we
something to
have
think
done
about.
research on what other
No,
communities.
these are all just ideas, that's a good idea.
We have done research on other communities, correct, Ms. Devlin?
Yeah, all the prices range,
Right.
but I think you need to consider.
If
it's
you
a
can come up to the
wedding,
microphone, please. Sorry.
that's fine.
You
Right.
know too much.
No, but we have that, where the weddings example would fall under the not-for-profits. They'd either
Right, but
be
you don't
free
want
or
to charge
$10.
$200 for that either, for an individual, like to come in, like,
No, the not-for-profit would be free or $10, just to cover like your time or the, department's time to do the paperwork, or free. That's done, their weddings are not-for-profits.
well, the only thing for nonprofit is every license we have, nonprofits don't pay, so you're gonna have to change every license we have for the fee for a nonprofit to make it equal.
So we either do that, or we leave the nonprofits free, either way.
Mr. Swenson?
I have an issue conceptually with this. I don't ever think that permits should be a revenue source for the community. The idea of fees for permits is to offset the costs of processing the permit and then the services rendered by that permit. I just don't, I have a problem trying to use permits as a revenue source for the town.
But
So-
is
Just my
$50,
personal-
does $50 accurately offset the cost of the different departments that review it, Ms. Devlin's time?
In all candor, I've been on the board long enough that I think it probably does, because it's such a straight-ahead process right now. I haven't sat through the process.
So-
You're getting
Well,
a little-
in
She's-
general,
they're looking at you, but-
with obviously with some exceptions.
Right.
Obviously with some exceptions. But
I
I mean,
would-
like this next one we have up with St. Joe's, those are cut and dried. I mean, I can't see that a whole lot of work goes into prepping it. I mean, if one of the commissions or one of the departments that have to sign off on it comes back and says, no, well, that's too cheap. Not that many years ago, we reviewed and changed our fee structure overall. If someone department comes in and says, I have to spend 3 hours on this to get this done on a regular basis, well, then maybe then we should look at changing the permitting.
But just off
But-
top of
but
my
just-
head, you have 15 minutes for the police chief, 15 minutes for the fire chief, 30 minutes for the building inspector, an hour for Miss Devlin. That starts to add up.
Can I throw one
That's
thing out
fine, but
there?
I don't like making a different, I just don't like to see it get to the point where we're using permits
Right.
as a
So,
profit
if
center.
I
for the
can
town.
actually
Sure, Mr.
counter
Mr.
that.
Singer?
The goal is never to make it a profit center. I think historically, you've known, I've always been the selectman who's argued against the tax increases, argued against the fees and everything else we charge people. My thought, and that's why I threw it out for consideration, wasn't to use it as a profit generator, but simply to use it as a vehicle to hopefully curb people circumventing getting an actual liquor license and figuring, you know what, why should I get a liquor license and actually go through that process and pay all the money for liquor license, which my business should be doing if I'm doing this regularly all the time, when I can just keep circumventing it with the quote loophole of a one day. So it wasn't for profit, it was to
Okay,
curb,
fair enough.
abuse of a system.
But it's also,
Fair enough.
it gets to a point where it's becoming regulation, where you're using the money for regulation. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Mr. Swenson?
We are the licensing authority. We grant or do not grant every liquor license that comes before us. It's one-day permit or regular license. If we feel someone is abusing it, we have the authority to just say no.
Yeah, but you
I
can't just say
think it
no
has
if
to be
they
due
meet all the
process with that
criteria.
as
Well,
Well-
there has to be due process, but we don't, when it comes forward to us, we don't have to just rubber stamp every one.
Right, but if someone meets all the criteria, and if the fire chief, police chief, if the zoning, if everyone signs off, they have their certificate of occupancy and everything else, doesn't matter if they get 50 of them. You have no legal right to say no.
Well, we do
You
actually have a limit of 30.
you can't arbitrarily say no.
We have a limit of 30 right now.
That's
So-
per the state,
Yeah, so
no
that's,
more than
30 days, which is plus the
30
day
permits.
after, so that's
30
10 permits.
30
least.
licenses.
right. So as long as they
Well,
fit.
30
which-
days.
Right, which would
No,
be
30
part.
licenses.
it's
30
30
license-
days, you have to count the day before and the day after within that
So if
30
it's 30,
days.
then you can only, in effect, if
Take
each
10.
license is
Yeah.
3 days, you can only have 10 of them?
Right,
Ten.
pretty much, because
Okay,
that's
then
what,
I misunderstood that then.
Okay,
so-
so yeah, because I thought they could do 30.
no, because I had to clarify that, because I thought so too.
'Cause that's
Because you
almost a
figure
whole
the day
year.
before
30
and after
weekends,
they
we're gonna do
don't.
it every weekend, 30
Yeah,
times.
no, but the state said that we have to include the day before and the day after, because it's all part of the license.
Okay.
So that's part
So
of their
5
30
weekends
days.
is 15 days gone.
Yeah, but the other thing is, once an application is approved for a place to have the special license, the process is real quick. It's the other ones that come through that have to go through the whole thing to see if site plan's been done, if everything's been approved. That's what the big holdup is and where it's time consuming. It's also not that easy for somebody to come in and get a full liquor license.
I know.
There's a big process. I mean, they have to have buildings, they have to have all the requirements. So a lot of these people that might have their functions, I don't know if it would hinder them making
Well, you would think
money
if they
on
want to
it.
have regular events with alcohol all the time throughout the year, they would just as soon get the liquor license so they can just,
Right, but
not
then,
have to deal with us.
what if you
If
don't
they
have the correct
qualify.
structure to do
Right.
it?
Yeah,
So,
then I would offer an alternative if you're trying to accomplish what you're saying, trying to accomplish, which is maybe there's a higher fee for the first license where the site plan review and all that has to be done.
for an initial,
Then subsequent licenses are at a lesser fee.
That would make sense as well.
Ms. Devlin?
I don't know if
Yeah,
that
you
would
know
work
what?
because we've issued too many that nobody has gotten a fee. I don't know if you can actually do that now.
no, but you know what? Like
It wouldn't be
TSA,
fair.
you could pay an extra $150 to TSA for pre-security, pre-check.
Well, I feel like we're
No,
starting
but you're
to,
right. If it could speed the process later, if there's a way that someone can pay, go through everything, and then they don't have to come back every time, because here's like we've already done our inspections, you don't have to come back every time, right? We've already done our inspections, it's the same place, same operator, same venue, same host. Here's your
Mr.
15.
Swenson?
I'd feel most comfortable if we talk to police chief, fire chief, building commissioner, zoning, the related departments, and say, what's the cost?
right. And I
What's the
think
cost of
that's
everything
part
else?
of what we're reviewing now. I think if we can direct
You know,
the selectman's office to look into that as well.
I did send him the application. I made a bunch of
Okay.
changes so far. I still have more. I left you guys a whole folder.
Oh, yes.
Feel free to go through them
Yeah.
and if you
But-
want to add anything. But we do have one of the better applications that I've seen.
Yeah,
Right.
we just
And
want
if
to
you-
kind of close loopholes, smooth the process,
Yeah.
make sure that everything is like.
I don't want to see it
As-
get too complicated though, because it
Right.
really
Right,
should
we
be a
wanna-
simple process
We
for
want
people
a,
to
right,
come
we want a
through.
simple process that people can't abuse, and it makes it easy and streamlined for the people who apply.
Right.
Mary, do you remember when we revised most of our fee structures? It wasn't that many years ago.
No.
4 or 5 years ago, maybe?
The fees got changed from your Board of Selectmen policies. Mrs. Cooper was the one that had done a review and recommended changes to it, you know?
So I'd guess maybe 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, probably about 3, I would say.
Okay. Okay.
3 or 4 years ago, but she had recommended all the changes, so it's good to do that every few years to see if you're in line. Right now, our fees are good for the special licenses. I like the amounts, I don't think it's outrageous,
Yep.
you know, but that's just my opinion.
And just for edification, I would like to see, just, asking the police chief, how long does it take for you to review a license? What goes into that? Just a quick, just so we have that information.
Oh, police, fire, zoning, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
All
As
involved.
just an example.
Yep.
All right.
If the board doesn't
Yeah.
object to that,
No, I
No,
think that's a
I
good
agree.
idea.
So what do you want me to do?
just, you and the rest of the selectmen's office, just work on figuring out like.
Time frame
The
for
time,
everybody?
Yeah.
time, the commitment to a license.
Okay.
Did you have more recommendations, Mr. Singer?
No, it was just to throw out the idea and get this conversation going.
Right. And the conversation is well underway, and that's why we're doing research, and we have all that information in front of us. Thank you, Ms. Devlin.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next item then. Good discussion. Our next item is the special request for a special liquor license for St. Joseph's Church. Attached is a request from Brian Garney on behalf of St. Joseph's Church for a special liquor license for wine and malt beverages to be used for an adult fundraiser, Life Teen Haiti Trip Bingo, to be used on Friday, November 17th, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at St. Joseph's Church in the church hall. This request has been forwarded and approved by the building commissioner, fire department, and police department. Per the board's policy, the license, if the day's requests are approved, should be issued for 2 additional days for the following reasons. November 16th, day before, to allow delivery of alcohol to the establishment where no sales will be allowed. November 17th, for sales on the approved date and time as listed. And November 18th, to allow for pickup of any unused alcohol where no sales will be allowed. These dates would be reflected on the license. To date, St. Joseph's Church has used 16 days of the 30 allowed and have a balance of 14 days available. Mr. Craver would recommend the board's approval of the special license as requested. What are the board's wishes?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath.
I make motion that we approve the one-day liquor license for St. Joseph's Church for the above dates, November 16th, 17th, and 18th,
As requested?
as requested.
Second.
Beautiful. Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
1 second, if you could, please.
Looking for that tip certification?
I am.
It's at the back.
Perfect.
Got it.
All right, seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. Item number 8, under new business, request for a special liquor license, Buchanan Wedding. Attached is request for Sarah Buchanan for a special liquor license for wine and malt beverages to be used on Saturday, November 4th, from 4 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. at Camp Joslin at 150 Richardson Corner Road for a wedding. This request has been forwarded and approved by the building commissioner, fire department, and police department. Per the board's policy, the license, if the days requested are approved, should be issued for 2 additional days for the following reasons. Day before, to allow delivery of alcohol to the establishment. November 4th, for sale on the approved date and time is listed. And November 5th, to allow for pickup of any unused alcohol. Both the before and after dates, no sales will be allowed. These dates would be reflected on the license. This is the first request for a special license by Ms. Buchanan, and if granted, will allow her 27 more days if requested. Mr. Craver would recommend the board approve the special license as requested.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion is do we have a
Second.
Motion is second to approve the special license request as requested. Any discussion?
1 second.
Yep. There's a certificate of compliance, tip certification.
So how many events has Camp Johnson had this year?
I think I looked at there's 4 or 5.
I don't count Camp Johnson, I count individuals, because they're renting it.
Yeah, but
But on the first
I
one
looked at it
was
just out of-
written up as on behalf of St. Joe's, which is the location, not the
No, but
fundraiser.
St. Joe's is running the fundraiser. for
Oh, so
St.
they're the
Joe's.
venue and the sponsor?
Yes.
Yeah, so someone's, I think the person specified is the person, like the contact person who's running the event
Yep,
as an agent of St. Joe's.
right, I just didn't know, I wasn't clear that St. Joe's was also the sponsor.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
You should have a list in there
Yeah, it was. Camp different people have had different events at Camp Joslin. I counted 5.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, the second page is the special license request.
Right there.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion passes. For those here who arrived later on, item number 9 on new business request for special liquor license, Base Beverage Incorporated, was taken earlier. Out of order, just to, for sake of our staff. So, moving on, that is all of our new business. Old business, a fire chief retirement hiring process. You have asked that the hiring process be added to this agenda so that the board can begin the search for a new fire chief. The personnel bylaw states, section 220-5.6, recruitment. Individuals shall be recruited from a geographic area as wide as is necessary to assure obtaining qualified candidates, allowing for preference to residents if all considerations are equal. The official notice of a job vacancy shall be posted through the town administrator's office on a public bulletin board within the Charlton Town Hall for not less than 7 days, and shall be published in a newspaper of local circulation at least 7 days prior to the close of the period specified for submission of an application. Publishing requirements shall be waived if the position is to be filled by the promotion of a present employee. And section 220-5.12, promotions. Any town employee may apply for any promotion posted under section 220-5.6 above. Consideration will be given to knowledge, skills, experience, education, and seniority. Ms. Craver included the above passages for our review as Chief Charles Cloutier stated at our last meeting that Deputy Chief Edward Knopf is ready to take the next step and would be an excellent fire chief for Charlton. Ms. Craver also is under the belief that Deputy Chief Knopf would be an excellent choice. Thus, she recommends that we direct us to post in the town's clerk's bulletin within the Charlton Town Hall for 7 days to see if he will apply and interview him. Then, if he does not meet the expectations, we will post in the newspaper. Also, can I finish the memo? Also, yes?
Yes.
Also, if you need to decide the review and interview process, Ms. Gray recommends that you set up an interview with the deputy chief and the whole board. And if we choose to go outside, have the HR director score the applications and present to you the top 3 to 5 candidates for interview by the whole board. We would have time to review all applications and see scorings prior to setting up the final interviews. Certainly, there are many variations that we could choose, including a fire chief selection committee. Ms. Craver's recommendations are geared for efficiency and process. Mr. Swenson, thank you for being patient.
I solidly and wholeheartedly agree with Chief Cloutier and Ms. Craver that I think not only on their recommendation, but just on performance, that Deputy Chief Knopf I would agree, is very ready to take that next step. To that end, I would make a motion that we direct the Selectman's office to post on the town clerk's bulletin within the Charlton Town Hall for 7 days, the position of fire chief.
Thank you.
And I also, just last thing to say, I also strongly believe in hiring from within.
I'll second.
Wherever it's appropriate.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Mr. Singer.
I agree regarding Deputy Chief Knopf. I would say, however, I just caution against, any impression of favoritism or automatic positions or hirings. It is going to be posted for internal candidates, which means any internal candidate can apply for this job. We've been down this road before where people assume a certain candidate will get a position and they don't. So just want to temper everything. While we all agree, we want to make sure that every internal employee who wants to apply for it is given equal opportunity. And I would also point out that, if I'm not mistaken, the fire chief is not civil service as police is. Fire is not
Correct.
civil service.
That's correct.
So we don't have the same restrictions as either.
I think we should encourage everyone who's interested to apply.
Absolutely. And I agree with everything that's been stated before. Mr. Knopf's actions speak very loudly. He has accomplished a lot and had a good mentor. But also I agree that everyone who's interested should apply. Is there any discussion on the motion?
we go outside, we'll deal with that under a separate motion later.
Correct.
Yep.
So, as Mr. Craver recommended, if no one applies in the 7 days, we can always review it at another time.
Yeah, so I'll make sure we keep that separate, because there are things I'd want to add to that motion if things wound up going that way, which I don't think they would, but if they did.
Noted. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. We'll now move on to committee reports. Is there any committee reports?
I've had 2 committee meetings since our last Board of Selectmen meeting.
Mm-hmm.
First committee meeting was the Fay Mountain Farm Committee meeting. We had it in the Conservation Office. Just to let you all know, on October 14th, Fay Mountain Farm had a harvest festival, an October festival, that was extremely well-attended. There were lots of volunteers there, including a couple of the principals from 508 International, who were helping with parking and transportation. In addition, I would like to thank our brand-new police chief, Chief Maxfield, because he generously donated the detail that day.
Oh, yeah, we echo that, thanks. That's a very,
It was very generous of him to support the farm activity in that way, and it was extremely well-attended. I wish you all had been there. It was really nice, and it was good for the town.
it's nice to have such a wonderful resource in town.
Mm-hmm. And as I stated earlier, the other meeting I had was with the Marijuana Advisory Committee, just prior to this meeting. And I would encourage people, again, if they have questions, to come to that November 1st meeting.
Absolutely, and I imagine the minutes of that will be available as well.
Yes, they will.
Any questions for Ms. Noble?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other committee reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to the maiden student select person report from Ms. Grandowski. Ms. Grandowski, please take it away.
All right, so, for sports at the Hill, the football team has won 2 out of the 3 games this month. The volleyball team has recently switched all their jerseys to a hot pink color in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And the cross country just finished the girls' season undefeated and placed 2nd in the state of Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
In music, the show choirs have both had choreography weekends for all the weekends of October, each of them being 18 hours. And then this Friday,
Oh
the all-girls group is volunteering at Dudley Middle School for a zombie run. I'm not sure what charity they run it for, but I know that smaller children run, and then we all dress up as zombies and like scare them and stuff. So that's happening. The band is in the middle of their competition season and recently hosted their home show, and they won their last competition.
Surprise.
And other various events. Last Friday, there was a trip to Salem for juniors and other seniors and sophomores to study the Crucible, because they're reading that right now, and it was a well-attended trip. It lasted all day. On October 17th, they had tours at the school for 8th graders, 12:15 to 2:10. The 8th graders came up and they experienced various performances from the show choir band and cheerleaders, as well as took tours on the first floor, and later that night could come back to learn more about like the clubs and stuff afterward. And lastly, on the 23rd of September, there was a homecoming day organized where the clubs got to host booths and food and raffles and things. And it was their first time ever doing it. It was pretty well attended, but I think next year they might need like more alumni and to get more kids interested going voluntarily rather than just having to go to perform for their various group that they're involved in. And then they ended the night with a football game, and the following week was the homecoming dance.
Very nice.
Any questions for Ms.
Busy
Grandowski?
time.
Lots of activities up at the Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. It's a
Good.
busy month. October and November are usually busiest up there.
18 hours. Well,
That's a lot.
that's more than a full-time job up there. Oh, so no questions? Thank you very much.
We don't
Thank you.
competitions.
Excellent report.
Congratulations on your first report. We look forward to many more. Speaking of reports, there is no town administrator report, so we'll move on to other business. Is there any other business unknown at the time of posting? Seeing none. Our next meeting will be November 7th, and I will entertain a motion to enter an executive session.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath.
I make a motion, we enter executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Number 1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaint or charges against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, Fire Department IOD, and number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body regarding the clerical union. If the chair declares an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. The chair does declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiation position of the public body, and will be exiting executive session solely for the purpose of adjournment. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go by roll call vote. Mr. McGrath.
Aye.
Ms. Noble.
Aye.
Mr. Swenson.
Aye.
Mr. Singer.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're now in executive session at 7:30 PM, and we'll be exiting executive session solely for the purpose of adjournment. And our next regular selectmen's meeting will be November 7th. Have a good night. Happy Halloween.
Good job.
I had a